Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Film Feeder podcast. It's been a hot minute, but I'm back and it's a brand new year and I'm just ready to get right into it. But before we go on, I just want to say the Film Feeder podcast is going to sound a little bit different than usual, not least because I'm going through a bit of a cold at the moment. So if for whatever reason I'm sounding a bit raspy, it's now you know I'm fighting whatever cold flu's going around at the moment. But it's not just that, ladies and gentlemen. I am joined by my brand new co-host, Mr. Joe Warne. Hi, Joe. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Jack, and hello to all of the Film Feeder listeners. It is an honor to and a pleasure to be here with you now.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. Ever since starting, I mean, because I've been doing it on my own since the podcast started, and I've always had like guests and stuff because I always felt like I work better when I'm interacting with someone else rather than just kind of like saying stuff just to myself, which can be a bit awkward. But I feel like with you around, I think the flow there'll be a much nicer flow to it, and hopefully our listeners will have some fun banter to listen to as well. So yeah, no, I'm really excited to have you on board, Joe. Well, since you're new here, I just thought I'd give you the floor just to give everyone a bit of info as to your background, where you come from, what your personal interests are, and all that sort of stuff. So, Joe, the floor is yours.
Oh, why, thank you, Jack. So my name is Joe Warne, and I work as the film reviewer for a lot of I work in community radio, so I work for quite a few places, namely stations in the southwest area of the UK, such as Bath for Bath Sound Radio, Wave for my hometown of Weston-super-Mare, as well as places such as Apple FM in Taunton and Sedgemoor FM in Bridgewater. Now, I've been working as a film reviewer for going on just over 8 years now. I got my start back in 2017 when I first got involved with Sedgemoor FM and community radio. I have film wasn't what I it wasn't what I started off being interested in. Um, as someone with autism, my interest kind of fluctuated a lot until like around I was like 14 or so. I realized this is what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And ever since then, yeah, I have been going from station to station. I took up work with Bath while I was studying film there for university from 2020 to 2023. And ever since I've carried on work with my stations while also just trying to integrate myself more with the general community of film reviewers. In fact, this year was a quite a big milestone for me myself because it was my first time attending as a professional reviewer London Film Festival, which has just so happened uh, where I met Jack.
It is, yeah, and we have a mutual friend as well. Shout out to Matthew Buck, who's been on the show before, and you're obviously very familiar with him, and apparently it's through him that you kind of became familiar with me and what I do with Film Feeder, and we just got talking whilst we were in line for a few of the press screenings that were showing at the lovely Picture House Central, right off Piccadilly Circus. And yeah, we just got really chatting, and we have this really good rapport. We're both a couple of really avid film lovers, both neurodivergent. I'm autistic as well, so I think that really we have a lot in common there as well. And yeah, and I was really fascinated to hear like everything that you've gone through and everything, all your credentials and everything. Because I mean, getting your voice out there on radio and like local radio and like Bath and everything, I'm really impressed by because I mean I've dabbled in community radio myself, but this was like years ago, back when I don't think Film Feeder was even a thing. So it can I imagine it can be very daunting on that end, but the fact that you've gone out there and are really like me, just let your passion drive you into everything that you've done and are doing today. I think that's really, really something to be proud of, and I'm really looking forward to going on this new journey with you.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because I back when I started out, I never could have imagined that my I was just doing it just as a voluntary job, just as a means of getting to just telling people just what is like worth their time and money going to see that's out this week. Never in a million years did I imagine that I would meet someone like Matthew, who I've watched for going on like over 10 years at this point. Because I first met him a few back at the Forbidden Worlds Film Festival in May of 2025. And then to go from meeting him to then people like Mark Kermode, Ali Plum, and of course yourself, and now actually be the co-host for Film Feeder. Again, never in my wildest dreams would I have ever imagined this. So I'm very excited to see where this journey leads us further.
Absolutely. No, I'm really like I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but yeah, I'm just really excited to have you on board. And I think between us, I think Film Feeder will thrive just as much, if not more so, than it already has. So with all that said, I think it's time to dive right into today's topic. Since it is the new year, I thought it'd be a pretty neat idea to just basically have a look back over 2025, the last 12 months, which have been quite interesting for the world of film. You know, a lot of really crazy things have happened, a lot of really unexpected things. You know, we've in February, for example, we saw, you know, Amazon retain the creative rights of the James Bond franchise because the original producers, Barbara Broccoli, Michael G. Wilson, they relinquished them to Amazon, and since then it's just been full speed ahead with development on the next James Bond. So they've got Denis Villeneuve currently lined up to direct. I believe Stephen Knight is penning the screenplay now. No news on who Bond is going to be yet, but I'm sure we'll hear
Mm.
that sometime over the next year or so. Um, yeah, but and also I think we've lost a lot of legends this year as well. I mean, starting off the year, you know, we lost the great Gene Hackman, which was quite a shock. You know, obviously a screen legend for films like French Connection, The Conversation, Superman. You know, he was a real actor's actor. You know, and you know, throughout the course of the year, we've lost a lot of greats. I mean, most recently Rob Reiner, who's extremely tragic and really was a last minute shock for everyone in 2025. Were there any departed members that I'm forgetting that you were quite fond of?
Because I think the big one, even predating Gene Hackman, back in January, we lost someone who is one of my all-time favorite filmmakers, and that is the legendary David Lynch.
Oh yeah, yeah, David Lynch. Yeah, no, that's I mean that was kind of a shock because I believe I can't remember what it was some form of cancer. Forgive me, I can't remember, but it was quite a shock because I mean obviously David Lynch has his severe fan base. And you know, you say what you will about his films, whether you think they're artistic masterpieces or just like real surrealist, like WTF hodgepodges. Like he was a fascinating visual filmmaker. Like he was just keen to just like um, do whatever he wanted, say whatever he wanted, not really caring to give the audience meaning as to what the hell was actually going on. No, no, we that was a real loss, and obviously, and also this year, just Robert Redford was a massive. I mean, he was a genuine movie star, the founder of the Sundance Film Festival. He was a right up to the end. He was just such a beloved figure in the industry, and and there was so many more that I'm most likely forgetting to mention, but Yeah, so we've had a lot of a surprising amount of death over in 2025. It's reminding me of 2016, where it's like from the
Mm.
very first days, it was they were dropping like flies, and like David Bowie, then Alan Rickman, all that sort of stuff, and then it was something similar in 2025 as well. So yeah, no, it's
Yeah, and I
very
think
sad.
the reason why a lot of this has hit so hard for me personally. Now, speaking as someone who was born in 2001, just for reference, I was born the same year that Lynch's Mulholland Drive came out.
Mm.
So the only films that came out during my lifetime that he directed were that Inland Empire and the return of Twin Peaks, as well as the What Did Jack Do short film. And I'd always held out hope that I would get to like see and talk about a new David Lynch film at some point during my career. And the fact that opportunity will never come, there is something that there is something sad about that, but at the same time, having seen just the celebration of the legacy of all of these stars, people like Lynch, Redford, Diane Keaton as well, I think was
Diane Keaton,
another.
of course. How can I forget Diane Keaton? That was just I mean, Diane Keaton was legendary, of great roles in films like Annie Hall and The Godfather, obviously, and underrated film called Looking for Mr. Goodbar. She was in that and was phenomenal. And in later years, she did more like those like typical like old those comedies that are more like aimed for like older crowds, like Book Club and I can't remember if I don't think she was in 80 for Brady, was she? I can't remember. But,
No, I
but those kind of films, like geared toward like the older audience. So that dominated like the latter bit of her career. But I mean, either way, she never really sleptwalked through any of it. She was genuinely a one in a million.
yeah, and I think the fact that people like Keaton and also like Robert Redford, I think something that I've really wanted to revisit but just not found the time for is David Lowery's his final film, The Old Man and the Gun, which I think now is just the most perfect cap off to his career, an encapsulation of just the best aspects of his on-screen persona. And it's just the fact that people like them, even towards the end, you could tell just how much they loved what they did. I think more than anything, that is that is the celebration to be found, even if they are no longer with us. And the fact as well that we've had so many special seasons in cinemas scheduled honoring them and their legacy. Like Cineworld, for instance, are bringing back some of Lynch's films over the course of this month. So, that I think is the silver lining to all of this.
Yeah, no, I think ironically, these high profile passings on have really kind of introduced new audiences to their work. Like I've noticed like in the days since Rob Reiner's passing, a lot of people have really been going out and seeing films like Spinal Tap and Princess Bride, Few Good Men, even his like acting roles in like Wolf of Wall Street, Sleepless in Seattle, and all these films, and they've really the fact that they're touching so many new generations of moviegoers really speaks to their credibility when they were still around, because while they may be gone, what they've left behind will live forever. And I think you've got so many film fans who are really seeing all these talented artists who have unfortunately passed. Whether it's Rob Reiner, Diane Keaton, Gene Hackman, Val Kilmer as well.
Mm.
Just it really speaks to how talented they were, how singular they were in their visions. That they can still be alive even after death, if that makes sense.
I completely understand you. Their legacy speaks volumes just the impact that they had while they were with us, and they will be that legacy will be around long after we aren't.
Yeah, absolutely. And but I think beyond all the mourning and stuff, well, there is still a bit of mourning because I mean, arguably the biggest industry story of the year might have a significant impact on the film industry as a whole when it was announced that Netflix had pretty much agreed with to purchase Warner Brothers for an extortionate amount. This is like a bidding war between them and Paramount, and now that Netflix is pretty much emerged as the clear winner, as it were, of this war, a lot of people are really concerned, and rightfully so, about what the nature of the theatrical model is going to be. Because famously, Netflix has said, that the in cinemas, they're outdated, yada yada yada, which I do not agree with whatsoever. And they've made steps to assure that no, Warner Brothers films that will still have theatrical releases, but I think people are just still a little bit skeptical, to say the least. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? How do you feel it will probably affect the wider theatrical landscape?
Yeah, like I'm very much in the camp of people who are like definitely concerned. Well, for a start, there's the fact that it was 82 billion that
Hmm.
Netflix paid to acquire Warner Brothers. Just thinking just in terms of just all the things that 82 billion could be spent on instead of buying Warner Brothers. But in terms of what it means for the industry, just with in terms of like of with the whole theatrical release model, I think in recent years, Netflix has what I've noticed is that Netflix has definitely taken steps to commodify the act of going to see films in the cinema, given what they've done for their awards contenders. Like, especially this year, when you have films like Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, Wake Up Dead Man, or even things like Ballad of a Small Player, for instance, where they will give them 2 weeks into cinemas at minimum before they come to Netflix, and because of how much they've put themselves in opposition to the big chains such as Odeon and Cineworld, they will usually go to the independent cinemas like picture houses or Curzons or that. So, as someone who works off of a World Unlimited membership, like going seeing these films as part of London Film Festival was a godsend send for me because of just how much money I was able to save and time for that matter. But I can't help but wonder what this will mean in terms of Warner Brothers releases going forward. Whether again this will mean that the big chains will outright refuse to program them, and it will result in a greater centralization of the market. But at the same time, there's this part of me that can't help but hope that against all odds that things will somehow turn out okay in the end. Like obviously, like it is like a massive corporate merger, and we've seen like with Disney buying 20th Century Fox um, a few years ago, just how that can turn out for the worse. But considering the sorts of films that have been produced under Netflix's banner, like Frankenstein, like Knives Out, for instance, considering their trust in auteurs like Guillermo del Toro, and Ryan Johnson, I can't help but hope that they will put their filmmakers first.
That would be my hope too. And to Netflix's credit, they definitely in recent years have adopted that kind of they've adopted like the kind of sense that they're like a prestige distributor, prestige studio. Obviously, they're putting forward their films for awards consideration, and they are giving them very limited cinema showings. I mean, but honestly, even then, you could count the amount of cinemas that are showing things like Knives Out or Frankenstein on your hand. Like even
Mm,
Ballad of a Small Player, like you have to like usually like go somewhere like central London to find, even then, not that many showings of those kinds of movies. But it's all just there, so that they can put them forward for awards consideration. When
yeah.
I think that
Although
there's
that being said, um, my Western Supermare has two cinemas. One is a Cineworld, and one used to be an Odeon but was acquired by Merlin in the past couple of years. And we did actually get Wake Up Dead Man showing down here for the 2 weeks before it came to Netflix, which I wasn't expecting in the slightest. That's actually the first time we've had a Netflix release play down in Western.
yeah, I think in terms of like Wake Up Dead Man, obviously that's a much higher profile release than something like Ballad of a Small Player. So I think obviously they wanted to expand that as much as they can. It's like what they did a few years ago with Glass Onion. They kind of like just like put it out in most cinemas for like a week and then it was just gone. And
Mm,
um and that can sometimes have a bit of a irritating effect because at the same time that you want to really um, experience these films on the big screen. Netflix is just going to come along and say like, actually, you don't want this. We want to watch it on your telly because that's the future. Well, I don't. Even if it is the future, I think there should at least still be room for the big screen, the actual cinema screen, because that's where ultimately films do belong. Good or bad, they deserve a shot on the big screen. And I really hope that now that they've acquired Warner Brothers, I really like you. I kind of hope that they take this opportunity and really expand their theatrical arm. Like, I really hope that this is a wake-up call for them because increasingly more and more people are saying, no, we want to go to the cinema. We need lots of stuff that should be put out there. We don't want it all just at home, just to watch maybe the once and then forget about even existed. So I think that the Netflix acquiring Warner Brothers thing is definitely going to be cause for concern. It might even turn out that things end up like how 20th Century kind of became a bit redundant under Disney. But at the same time, I really hope this is an opportunity for Netflix to really get out of this rather archaic mindset and really kind of embrace the theatrical model more than ever before. So hopefully that's what they'll take away from that. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
yeah, and that actually ties into something else that I've noticed over the course of this year. Specifically, one of Netflix's biggest films that didn't even get a cinema release, well, at first anyway, which really came out of nowhere, that being K-pop Demon Hunters. Like, if
Yeah.
you were to go back to the start of this year and tell me that the biggest animated film would be a straight to streaming original about from the makers of the Spider Verse. Well, in regards to Sony, with like one of the best soundtracks of the year, and it was about K-pop Demon Hunters. I would have needed a moment to process that, but it came completely out of left field and really like took the world by storm. And that's really what I've noticed about this year. There's been a lot of great films coming from really unexpected places, while at the same time, things that I think were surefire looked like they would be surefire hits at the start of this year, ended up being a lot more divisive than we could have predicted. Things like Mickey 17 or Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning or Materialists, for instance.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think I mean some of those films, yeah, they definitely didn't get the critical or commercial success that perhaps people were hoping for. I mean, there's obviously a lot of um films that really did just kind of like turn out to be major disappointments. But I think in general, yeah, I think there's been a lot of really good movies this year. I think that there have been more ones that work that haven't, and have really united um, audiences in ways that other film years haven't. Wouldn't you agree?
This is actually the most a number of new releases that I have seen in 12 months. 2024 was my personal best, as I got to 122. But this year, London Film Festival did help. Was my score has been 146, and if you were to again, like if I going back to the start of this year, I would have never imagined that films like Train Dreams or I Swear or Sorry Baby, films that weren't on my radar at all at the beginning, then just they really like came and took me by surprise, and I'm really grateful for them. And in terms of some of like the biggest names to come out of this year, like Tim Robinson, who I was vaguely familiar with for his sketch work for I Think You Should Leave, but then Friendship really put him on my radar, and then one of my favorite TV series of this year ended up being The Chair Company on Sky. Um, Also, again, Eva Victor, who back when Sorry Baby was coming out, I remember my mum was actually interested because she knew who they were because they had been quite a big part of the last few seasons of Billions with Paul Giamatti and Damian Lewis. So I at the end, so going into next year, I'm just really I'm to see like the new crop of talent that has emerged this year. That is like something I'm very much looking forward to see develop over over the next few years.
Yeah, no, I think we've seen a lot of really great filmmakers kind of emerge, you know, like existing ones and new ones, and I think that um, yeah, we have a lot of personal favorites from among the year that are from those exact kind of talents, and we will talk about our top picks of the year very, very momentarily. But in terms of, you know, summing up 2025 as a whole, how would you kind of rank it in terms of like recent film years? Like, do you think it's had as much of a impact as like, for example, the Barbenheimer phenomenon from a few years ago? Do you think it's had as much effect on that since?
Well, I think the Barbenheim 2023 and Barbenheimer, I feel like if I was to rank every year of this decade, that would still be top for me. But I'd say that this year would honestly be a close second because just in terms of the films that have like personally meant the most to me me this year, like though yeah, those there are like some films from this year that I can see like making my personal best of the decade list when we get to the end. Though I wouldn't quite like to jump that far ahead just yet.
So let's get into our top picks then. So I think both of us are pretty unanimous with what we've deemed to be like among our top two. I think we should just go out and say it's going to be very similar to the top picks that everyone else has, but I don't care because the films are that good. So let's talk about Sinners and One Battle After Another.
Yes, I do find it funny that like in a year with like so many great films, these are the two that have been so unanimously decided on as like two of the best of the year. And I mean, they both absolutely deserve it because I think they are both like genuinely two of the best films we have gotten this decade so far.
Absolutely. I mean, let's start with Sinners because even before it came out, there was a lot of hype surrounding it, obviously, because Ryan Coogler had gained a lot of real attention for his work on Creed and Fruitvale Station, and of course the Black Panther movies. But this was obviously his first true original film. I mean, Fruitvale Station was an original screenplay, but it was based on someone else's life. But Sinners was his first true original concept, and the fact that he was going to be doing like some horror stuff, with vampires, setting it in like the deep South, 20th century America. There's a lot that could. I mean, it sounded like it could be really fun, and maybe might get some good feedback and everything. But even those people who were already looking forward to it, I don't think they could have predicted how amazed people were by it. Like, I mean, because when the reviews started coming out, it was like in the high 90s, and it kind of stayed there for a long time, which is just rave after rave after rave coming in, calling it one of the best horror movies in years, one of the best just pure world building and cast ensembles, all that sort of stuff. And then it goes on to, that word of mouth translates into phenomenal box office. Like it's grossed, I think, like something like 300 million worldwide against like $100 or so million budget. I mean, it's really been a massive success. It's really become its own little cultural phenomenon. People who have seen it really love it. And yeah, I have to agree with everyone else. It is a phenomenal film. It is my pick for number one of the year because it is such a beautifully done bit of storytelling. Just it takes place across a single day, but you really get a feel for this world, all these characters. I say like that before they like go and open the shack, like the whole thing plays out, and I mean this as a compliment. It plays out like the first episode of a mini series, where it just kind of like introduces the characters one by one, gets you to understand what they're going for and all that stuff, and then to be developed later on. But obviously you can't really do that in like in a film with a much more contained length. But the way that Ryan Coogler really makes all these characters feel real and feel grounded and with their own stuff going on, you're hooked on it before the vampires even show up. And I think it's a real testament to Coogler's strengths as both a filmmaker and a screenwriter, that he's able to just give you as much information about how certain things work without necessarily getting too lost in the lore of it. It just wants to do what he wants to do and then just go out. And I think it's just brilliantly done. I think it is an excellent, excellent film.
100% agree with you. Honestly, this was my number two in terms of my own top 10 list. And I think what I admired so much about it is just how well Coogler plays with genre in it, because ostensibly it is a horror film, and a vampire horror film at that. I've seen a lot of From Dusk Till Dawn comparisons, which I don't think are necessarily unfair. But they are trying to do two very different things. But it's also a film, in some ways, a musical and a film about music, and it's also a drama about about community, about grief, about the ways in which culture and the things which define and the cultural exports can be proliferated by outsiders for their own gain, despite not understanding the significance of it. And I think in some regards it is playing in a similar ball ground to the Black Panther and Wakanda Forever, in that with that subject matter. but the way in which but it feels like Coogler's voice is even more like centralized than it, even when it did compared to his MCU project. It feels distinctly his own.
Yeah, I mean, I think Coogler has really emerged as a filmmaker who, like Christopher Nolan, like Steven Spielberg, he really is coming to his own as a filmmaker who can get people excited just by, his very name, like, because obviously Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg, they've got movies coming out next year. They've already had trailers released for them, and a lot of people are excited or for them already, but as soon as they see their names attached to it, like from director Christopher Nolan with The Odyssey, for example, it just goes into like excitement. And I really feel that has also happened for Ryan Coogler as well, because again, his film record, his track record has been phenomenal. Starting out with Fruitvale Station, going on to Creed, and then obviously the Black Panther movies, and now Sinners. He's really, I think he's really embraced the I won't say like the notoriety, but just embrace the auteur mindset. He has this singular vision, this very distinct, easily recognizable vision. And when you factor in as well that he's playing around with like various film formats, like there's this great video that was released to promote the film, which is just Ryan Coogler going through all the various film formats that Sinners will be showing in, including IMAX 70 millimeter film. And that stuff is really fascinating because whether or not you know about all these various film formats, it's just so cool hearing someone with so much passion really get into the nitty gritty of it. And I love that I respect that hugely as from him as a filmmaker, but also just as someone who genuinely loves films. And it seems like he genuinely loves what he does. And I really am very excited to see what he goes on to do next, because the world's his lobster, Rodney, as they would say in Only Fools and Horses.
Oh, 100%. Like one of my biggest regrets of this year was that I didn't get the chance to see it in 70 millimeter. But I'd also like to take a moment to talk about Michael B. Jordan, because I think his performances are probably my favorite of the entire year. Like this year had a surprising number of actors performing dual roles. I think obviously though he does so in this, but there was also Robert Pattinson in Mickey 17, Robert De Niro in The Alto Night, um, Elle Fanning in Predator Badlands. That Superman also involved this, and I realized just how many of these were distributed by Warner Brothers. Now, actually saying them out loud,
Yeah, yeah.
but
It seems like David Zaslav has this weird thing, like just if you got an actor, just make him double. Like apparently he's the one who kind of wanted the Alto Knights to be in existence because he wanted to see Robert De Niro in a gangster film. And I don't know what your thoughts on that, but that movie sucked.
mm,
But it was but it makes so much sense when you know that it was literally from the mind of David Zaslav, that whole concept, because there's no reason that they had to be both Robert De Niro. It was just here's the gimmick, and it didn't work at all. But that's the least of it. But yeah, and there's a lot of duality this year. And what's interesting about Michael B. Jordan's performances here is they're like both smoke and stack. Obviously they're the same actor, but they're so radically different from one another. And it's that kind of brilliant thing where you can tell who's who just by the very small little inflections I have. And Jordan is so good at just going back and forth between them. And he has this real good emotional arc as well when he's Smoke as well. And I think it's a phenomenal dual performance, and I think it's I mean, honestly, all the cast is great. Miles Caton is fantastic. Delroy Lindo, Haley Steinfeld, Jamie Lawson, Wunmi Masaku as well. It's a great ensemble, and hopefully that will translate because the Oscars are introducing their casting award this year. So hopefully that brilliance there will really translate into the very first win. Which, if it went to Sinners, that would be fantastic. But it could also, funny enough, because it also features an ensemble, go to one battle after another. And so, since this is obviously your pick for number one, why don't you go into why you enjoyed it so much?
Oh, with pleasure. So this is, of course, Paul Thomas Anderson's latest film, his 10th, in fact, and it's a long-awaited collaboration between him and Leonardo DiCaprio, who seems to be the front runner at the moment. Well, one of two front runners for Best Actor. We'll get to the other one in a minute when we get to one of your picks for one of the best films of the year. But this this is also a his second time working with an adaptation of Thomas Pynchon, um, taking his 1990 novel Vineland, but it really just serves as more of a loose template, more less so than Inherent Vice did. Now, I remember I was a bit apprehensive going into this one, which feels strange looking back on, but like my least Inherent Vice is my personal least favorite Paul Thomas Anderson film. Not to say that it's bad, but it's the one that I feel like it was the hardest for me to truly get into, and I didn't have that problem at all with one battle after another, and it's actually, and for it being one of the longest films of the year, like clocking in at close to hours, in fact, just the fact that it takes you on such a roller coaster ride of a journey and refuses to let up, to slow down, even even for a minute. Just that it completely gripped me from start to finish, and as well, just the fact that it has so much on its mind politically about about white supremacism, about the insidious nature of fascism, and how it creeps into society. When you have a character as complex as Perfidia Beverly Hills, played brilliantly by Tayana Taylor, it's just it is just truly phenomenal in every single sense of the word, and it felt just so as well personal to PTA, as a filmmaker, and that's something that I got from this, even more than a film such as Magnolia or even Boogie Nights, which I would have called like my favorite from him before this. And I think the relationship between Leonardo DiCaprio and Chase Infinity, again, one of the best newcomers of the entire year. And what's striking about it as well is they only really have one scene together to really establish what their relationship is like, and that doesn't come until towards the end of the first act, I'd say, around like 50 minutes in. But you get so much of an understanding of how Bob's state has impacted the ways in which she sees him, but you can tell that there is just so much love between them, and there is nothing that he wouldn't do to ensure her safety, which then makes the rest of it, where he does go through hell and back to save her from Colonel Lockjaw, who, again, one of the best villain performances of the year from Sean Penn. It is nothing short of outstanding. Yeah, no, this is my favorite film of the year because it's the film that entertained me the most, but also made me feel the strongest emotions while watching it. Like, I remember distinctly leaving that cinema feeling reinvigorated, like it had given me hope for the future of cinema and for just the current generation.
Yeah, no, I think that's honestly, you said it better than I ever could. I mean, I love the film as well. It's my number two, but it is a solid runner up for me. I'm very well versed in Paul Thomas Anderson. I looked at his filmography. That's what I did my master's thesis on, and so I've seen all his films. I mean, I don't know if One Battle After Another would be at the top for me because I've some of his other films like I really do have a soft spot for Punch Drunk Love, and I really enjoyed Licorice Pizza as well. There Will Be Blood, obviously. So, but it is definitely up there for me in terms of just how accomplished it is. Similar to Sinners, like this is great bit of world building here because it's like it takes place in what could very well be this totalitarian, authoritarian regime in all but name. I mean, it's never said who's president, but let's be honest, we all know who's president in this universe. So I think what the film has to say about, like you said, like dealing with fascism, white supremacy, all that sort of stuff, and just having it be represented by antagonistic figures like Lockjaw, played by Sean Penn by way of Popeye. He's just kind of got that like he looks like he's about to down a can of spinach every single time he like struts on screen. But
Mm.
it's great. I mean, it's a great performance, but the character itself is fascinating because yeah, he is definitely this very machismo, very direct figure, but he's also really pathetic. Like he is someone who just has this borderline sexual fetish for Perfida Beverly Hills after, you know, they have their encounter at the beginning and they have a later encounter which, you know, he's pretty much you know, taken care of as it were, you know, try and keep it, you know, G-rated for this podcast. But and it's just like the rest of the film is him just kind of going out of his way, using whatever resources he can to eradicate what he thinks is a mistake from the past, you know, just to get in with a bunch of people who he thinks are his friends, but are actually kind of this really sinister, like Santa worshipping cult of white supremacists. And
Yes, the
the
Christmas Adventurers Club, as they call themselves.
yeah, they literally say like Hell Santa or something whenever they meet, and it's stuff like that is very funny, but it's also rather chilling because you know clubs like this really exist in real life. That there are these really powerful figures. Then hopefully not among them Tony Goldwyn as they are in the film, but you know you really feel like you know these people do exist in real life and they're the one who are like controlling everything, you know, that you know it's the when the Wizard of Oz, you know, the guy behind the curtains and everything. But what's so great about a Lockjaw as a character, just the villain, as because I do like Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie, I do, and I think he does really well just playing that really paranoid stoner mindset. But yeah, it really is like a Lockjaw who emerges as the most fascinating character of the year because, like I said, he displays so much of these toxic male mindsets, but underneath there is such an insecurity to him. There is such a patheticness to him that, yeah, I mean, yeah, he's evil. Yeah, he's racist and everything, but he's just this really insecure guy who just wants to belong to something, even if, again, it's a bunch of white supremacists, or white Christmas supremacists. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and something that has really stuck with me about it long after I first saw it is, I guess, what the film has to say about staying true to your core principles, the things that believe in, the values that you hold. I think you really see with both Beverly Hills and Lockjaw the fact that they are both compromised in various ways, and they suffer as a result of it. Perfidia flees her family. Lockjaw is shunned by the very group that he ultimately wants to be a part of. But in the end, the fact that Bob who is basically Leonardo DiCaprio's role from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, cranked up to even more levels of just pathetic bumbling. The fact that he never wavers from the his revolutionary self that we originally see, and same goes for Willa even after being captured. The fact that she does so much to escape, to keep fighting, that is, I think, that's what's resonated with me the most about it, and I think what will continue to resonate so much with it in for years and decades to come.
Yeah, no, it really does feel like it's going to be like one of the decade's most defining films because, yeah, it's got so much on its mind about where America is right now in this current heated time, and I think it will really resonate with people who kind of can see it all play out on screen. They can see how pathetic a lot of these figures can actually be, and that there is a way to resist it. Whether it's by revolutionary means or just by anything else. So I think, yeah, One Battle After Another is definitely one of the year's best films for sure. It's two for me, but I can definitely see why it's number one for you as well, as Sinners was for me. Um, yeah, no, so those are our two the two films that we personally agree are like the top two of the year. But what we're going to do now is we're actually going to share with you a couple of films from our end that we think deserve some attention too. So that ones that might not necessarily be on our shared lists, but are also quite worth mentioning as well. So, Joe, do you want to start off with yours?
Yeah, I'd be happy to go first, and I'm going to start with a film that only just recently came out at the time we're recording this on Boxing Day. That being Sentimental Value, which is the
Mm.
newest film from Joachim Trier, who directed The Worst Person in the World, Oslo, August 31st, Reprise, those three making up the Oslo trilogy, as well as Thelma and Louder Than Bombs. Now, this is a film which is about filmmaking, but also just so much more than that. So Stellan Skarsgård plays a film director who his defining work featured one of his daughters, who has since now played by Renata Reinsov, has gone into a career as a theatre actress, while the other um, now works as a stay-at-home mother. Now, Stellan Skarsgård's Gustav Borg, he returns to their family home in Norway with the aim of filming his newest feature there. But after both of his daughters refuse to have much of anything to do with him for how he has treated them and their recently departed mother throughout their lives, he brings on Elle Fanning to play the role of his daughter, and it goes through these characters essentially trying to reconcile with each other, to find some form of coexistence as a family unit. And this was out. I saw a lot of films from at London Film Festival. My plan was to go as far as I could, see as many films as I could, just to get a feel of just how it works. And out of the 30 that I saw there, which included some great films, this was my favorite out of no, this it wasn't my favorite. It was the best film that I saw out of everything that I saw in London.
Well, it's high praise indeed, because yeah, I was there watching some of the really good ones with you at London Film Festival as well. So yeah, so I mean, what about sentimental value really stuck out to you exactly?
Well, I guess to talk about what works so well about sentimental value, I wanted to bring up another film which was actually on your personal list of your favorite films of the year. That being Jay Kelly, from Noah Baumbach, because I noticed there are quite a few quite a few double features of films with similar subject matter at this year's London Film Festival, where you had like H is for Hawk and The Thing with Feathers as films about grief which use birds as a metaphor to convey it, or things like J. Kelly and Sentimental Value, both about filmmakers, the industry, about legacy, and how such a career can impact the relationships with those closest to you. Now, J. Kelly was a film that I liked, but wasn't quite as into as some other people. I very much have a lot of respect for people who did love it, like such as Jack. But Sentimental Value was a film for me that works in all of the ways that Jay Kelly really struggled to connect with me. And I think what the reason it works so well for me is because its portrayal of Stellan Skarsgård's character, it's very nuanced. It doesn't if I was to use like a percentage, I would say it's more of a 40% good, 60% bad. But and it doesn't necessarily make him out to be entirely sympathetic at the end of the day. He is a man who his emotional intelligence and his way of connecting with people is primarily through film. There is a one of my favorite jokes of the entire year is one involve it's a very like highbrow joke, but delivered in a very almost lowbrow way, involving French films, where he gives his grandson DVDs for as a present, and they are films where you really should not be showing to a young child, or from directors such as Michael Haneke or Gaspar Noé.
In that regard, it could be like worst grandpa ever or best grandpa ever, just depending on your perspective of things.
Yeah, and I think it's that multifaceted aspect that made me really connect with it so much. The fact that over the course of the film he does grow, and he makes decisions that put others before him himself at the end of the day. What he ultimately chooses to do with Elle Fanning's character, who again gives truly, I think this has been a great year for her as well, between this and Predator Badlands, two very different performances, but again they show a real like level of range that I hope when it comes to Oscar season people will take notice of in this case. And then you also have Renata Reinsberger as well, who, after Worst Person in the World, and was also a standout in A Different Man, is just phenomenal here.
Yeah, and obviously not forgetting Inga Ibsdotter Lilias as well, who plays her sister, and she
Oh
is
no,
excellent as well.
yeah, I wasn't forgetting her. I just wanted to be absolutely sure I didn't get mispronounce her name by accident.
Yeah, hopefully we got it right. So, any fans out there, did we nail it or fail it? Just let us know.
Oh, but yeah, it truly is one of my. I think it's the film that like emotionally moved me the most out of anything that I saw at London Film Festival, which is saying something for the year that had Hamnet as part of its lineup.
Yeah, Hamlet was damn good. We'll maybe get into that into the next episode, but because it'll be all about the Oscars. But um, but yeah, no, I'm really glad that you it started out with Sentimental Value. That's it's a great film. It did end up on my best of list as well. Um, and for my first pick, I'm actually going with another recent release, also released on Boxing Day around select cinemas in the UK. And I think it's opening a bit more nationwide on New Year's Day. I'm talking about Marty Supreme.
before we get into this, I just wanted to mention I actually have at time of recording, I haven't seen Marty Supreme yet.
Mhm.
With how the rollout is working, entertainment film distributors have it from A24 in the UK, and what they've done is they've put it out in select cinemas on Boxing Day, and then it's getting a wide release in New Year's Day, night, which is when I've booked to go and see it. But based on everything that I have heard about it and how fantastic it is, I am like perfectly fine with just giving Jack the floor with this one to just gush about how great it is.
Yeah, and I'll try and keep spoilers to a minimum on this because obviously I want you to experience it for yourself. But man, I really love these because obviously it's Josh Safdie who directed it. He obviously with his brother Benny did A Good Time, Uncut Gems, all those really quite stress-inducing pressure cooker thrillers, and they're great. I love them as much as I do Marty Supreme. Both brothers actually went off and did their own thing this year. Benny Safdie went on to do The Smashing Machine with Dwayne Johnson, which I wasn't a huge fan of. It's not a terrible film. I just think it's just kind of mediocre for the kind of film that it is. But Marty Supreme is very much the kind of film that you'd expect from the filmmakers of Uncut Gems because it really has that same like pace and mentality behind it. Like there's just a series of events that seem like they're really going somewhere, but they end up really like self-destructive in very unpredictable ways. And it's such a brilliantly paced film because it's like 2.5 hours and it just flies by because Josh Safdie also edited the film with Ronald Bronstein, who also co-wrote the screenplay with Josh. And it zips by at such a pace that it genuinely feels like it doesn't even feel like it's 2 hours. Like you're just completely there along with Timothy Chalamet, going from one thing to another and just pursuing his dream, just being like this little cocksure little git who really just thinks he is God's gift to ping pong. And watching it all play out and all the turns that it takes, it's just, man, I can't wait for you to see it, Joe, and for anyone else who's listening who hasn't seen it to go and see it because it's an experience. And I think Timothy Chalamet is fantastic in it. I think this is absolutely a one of, if not his best performance to date. And I would be very, very shocked if he doesn't walk away with the Oscar in March because I think this is exactly what the Oscars were meant for, to reward just absolutely brava performance, filmmaking. Yeah, I just really loved it. Obviously, it ranked number three for me personally on the list, but yeah, this was. I'm so glad it turned out as great as I had hoped it would be.
Oh, honestly, just hearing you gush about it has just made me even more excited to get to see it for myself. I think it really is going to be a two-horse race this year between Leonardo DiCaprio and Timothy Chalamet for that Oscar. And I'd be happy with either of them. But I think the fact that this is being hailed as Timothy's best performance in a career that has already had Call Me By Your Name, Lady Bird, Beautiful Boy, Little Women, Dune, Wonka, Bones and All, and A Complete Unknown. That is, I think, truly saying something. I mean, he said himself that he like aspires for greatness, to be one of the greats. And I think based on just that alone and the performance that he has given, not to mention just the press run that he has had, that I think is going to go down as like one for the ages. Yeah, I'd have no objections to him to him winning the Oscar for it. So yeah, I will definitely have my own thoughts to share on it at a later point in time. But for now, I'm very much excited to finally see what all the hype is about.
So that's obviously our first picks each. What's your next one?
Right, now for my second choice, this is a film that I did brief talk a little bit about earlier, but I wanted to go properly in depth with it because this is what I'd call the best film of the year. It's not my favorite, but in terms of just objective, objective quality, this is what I consider to be the best film of the year, and that is Sorry Baby, which is the not just the directorial debut, but also the screenwriting debut of Eva Victor. Now, this was a big hit at Sundance back at the start of 2025, and it is it follows a year in the life of Agnes, played by Victor, a woman who has experienced an extremely traumatic event and then goes back and returns to her stomping grounds of where she went for college, university to take up a teaching position, and it follows a year in her life, dealing with her best friend, having gotten played by Naomi Aki, having gotten married in a year's worth of a surrogate pregnancy, and just trying to grapple with her place in the world while also dealing with a very bad thing.
Yeah, Sorry Baby is quite high on my list. I think it's number six, I believe, on my list. I was blown away by it as well. Like, I think this is a very it's a well, first of all, it's a film that's about some very difficult subject matter. Like, this is an extremely, like you said, it's extremely traumatic event that goes on in her life, and it's the kind of thing that, it needs to be uh gently pressed. Otherwise, your risk of coming off as like inconsiderate. But what it does, it really approaches the topic with some very like underlying dark humor, and what it also just kind of looks at it from a genuinely personal perspective. And it doesn't really offer any like straightforward answers as well, which is one of the things I really liked about it. This is just like, how does she deal with, just moving on from a situation that, will has pretty much scarred her for life. And what it does is, just show that there is no real quick fix to trauma, that there is such a thing as just maybe just having to learn to live with it, while also acknowledging that, it was a terrible thing and it should not have happened to this person. It's interesting, the same year we've had, you were talking about like very similar things showing at London Film Festival. Also at Film Festival was showing After the Hunt, which is tackling very similar subject matter to Sorry Baby, talking about some things that have happened on like a college campus involving professors and the blowout that happens after that. But because whereas After the Hunt, it did it in such a pretentious and very holier than thou way. This one came off far more naturally. It felt genuinely like it was from someone who had gone through. I don't know for a fact if Eva Victor's gone through anything like she does in this film. Which, if she is, I hope she's gotten the help that she needs. But I it's such a much more personal film, and it really doesn't portray it as black and white either, which is one of the many mistakes that After the Hunt made. And I was just really blown away by her ability to juggle such competing tones, because it is a somber drama mixed in with moments of dark comedy. And the balance is just immaculate, and I think she really did a phenomenal job with this film.
Oh yeah, 100% agreed with you on everything that you just said. But I wanted to go back to After the Hunt for a second, just as a means of just making clear just how this film. I'd argue that Sorry Baby, this is the definitive way to portray this kind of subject matter on screen going forward. And
Mm,
I think part of the because I also what didn't like After the Hunt, and part of my problem with it, I think, just boils down to Luca Guadagnino's approach as a filmmaker to the subject matter, which is very Luca Guadagnino. But I think that is part of the problem. It's a film which is interested more in being provocative, in the shot, in the hot button subject matter, rather than what has actually the event that has actually happened within it, in unpacking the fallout of it. And I think that's what makes Victor their screenplays. That's what made it so captivating for me, because it never nothing actually is shown on screen, but their visual language is able to tell you so much about what is actually going on and the impact it is causing, without ever needing to show anything. There's one shot involving the exterior of a house and the passage of time as it goes from during the day to the darkest of night, and that is something I've just not been able to stop thinking about, like, over 4 months since I first saw it. And Victor's performance is truly, like, outstanding. Just like, I'd never seen anything that they'd been in, though my mum had said that they were good in Billions. But I was just truly my breath was like taken away by just how much warmth, and just how many layers of emotion they bring to Agnes as a character. And in fact, like, this is another film that I think should also be in the conversation for casting, as well, because there's just so many wonderful supporting performances. You have Naomi Aki as her best friend Liddy, who is just like exactly the kind of best friend that you would want to have, supporting you in your time of need. And Lucas, as well as her next door neighbor, and John Carroll Lynch, as just a random stranger who she strikes up just a wonderful conversation with in the film, in what I think is like one of the film's like standout scenes. So, and yeah, this is one that has like really, because it feels so deeply personal, and it really resonated with me for that reason. This was my number three choice, sentimental value being my number four. Again, I think Sinners and One Battle After Another are, I think, I enjoyed watching more, but this is, in my opinion, just the best film of 2025.
I think there is a clear, distinct difference between best and favorite. I mean, yeah, I mean, Sorry Baby is an incredibly accomplished film, and as are all the other films on our list. But I think it's all that. One of the things I enjoy about end of year lists, it's all subjective. So you're all seeing. I mean, it says more about the person writing them than it does about the films themselves. I mean, for example, the other film that I was going to mention is I Swear, which is not in the awards conversation at all, really, which is a shame because one, it's a great film, and two, it's a very personal film for me, because I mean I don't know if you saw it as well, but I mean, what were your thoughts on it? Just very briefly.
Well, I Swear was a film also made my own year end list. And yeah, I think it is. I can see it getting nominations at the BAFTAs this year. I think that and a film which also made your list.
It did, yeah.
They're films that were that other film being Ballad of Wallace Island. I think they're films that they're not the sort of things that would get the traction at the Oscars that something like The Full Monty would have in the 1990s.
Mm.
But they're the sorts of like homegrown, feel good, but also like devastating and important and uplifting displays of British talent that I've been going around and recommending people the most out of anything released this year. And yeah, I distinctly remember. I swear it wasn't a film that was on my radar until I saw a trailer for it in front of all things, The Naked Gun. Yeah,
Like, very
yeah.
practically the same movie, yeah.
Oh, oh yeah. Liam Neeson spoof comedy with biography of a Tourette's campaigner. But that's yeah, seeing it in front of it, like that's what piqued my interest. And I saw it at it was a secret screening for Cineworld. It was what I hoped would be the film that they would choose for it. And yeah, it truly it it really it I wholeheartedly loved it. But again, I will supersede the floor to Jack to lead on this one.
Well, thanks, but obviously I wanted to lead with what you th thought first of all, because I mean, both of us are neurodivergent. Both of us identify as autistic, and autism is a part of the neurodivergent umbrella, as is Tourette's. And so, obviously, it was a very personal film for me because I mean, I do have people in my family who have their own form of Tourette's, and I have symptoms as well. Like when I was younger, I developed some facial muscular tics, which are a bit more under control now when I was younger. But seeing this film honestly made me curious as to maybe seek a full-on diagnosis for Tourette's because I do still have tics to get. I do still have traits of what someone with Tourette's might have. But beyond that, just seeing a man with a neurodivergent condition, having that represented in a way that's incredibly empathetic and devastating because you see his childhood. He's when he's developing, his tics. And this is a time when, corporal punishment was still okay in schools. So, like, he's being, like, physically punished by the headmaster just for things that are just out of his control. And it leads to such a devastating lack of confidence when he grows into a young man, when he's played excellently by Robert Aramayo. And when he still has these tics and everything, all these involuntary spasms and everything. And it was deeply moving to see that kind of uncertainty about oneself because of the condition that he has, because he's been ostracized by his family. He's pretty much an outcast. It's not until he befriends like Maxine Peake in the film or others that he really kind of comes into his own and starts educating people about Tourette's and all the stuff that comes with it. And because this year I also started like some part-time work. I've been doing some in-person training for the Oliver McGowan Foundation. Now, for those who might not be aware, Oliver McGowan was a young man who was autistic. He was, by all accounts, a healthy young lad and everything, but after a point, he went into hospital and the doctors did not listen to what his needs were, what his parents said that his needs were, and they ended up putting him on a bunch of antipsychotic medication and like restraining him in bed, and so he couldn't like move around like he needs to in order to stim. And unfortunately, Oliver McGowan unfortunately ended up passing away because the antipsychotics that he was given, he ended up being allergic to, and he ended up having a brain aneurysm of the sorts, and he ended up dying. And his mother was really instrumental in kickstarting a campaign to really like John in the film really educate people about learning disabilities and autism, and making sure that everyone has their own specific needs, and to really understand the what people with Tourette's or autism do should not be like dismissed or frowned upon or anything like that. It should be it should be just like I wouldn't say encouraged, but like more like accepted, and more just that the people are just made aware that this is something that is just it's just who we are, and that there's nothing that can change that. And this film, what it does by showing him, go out and give all his campaigns for going into schools and police stations, all that stuff, and really talking to people about it, it really struck a chord with me, and it just yeah, and I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, because obviously, as someone who identifies as autistic, I I just want the world to understand about what we kind of have to offer, and this film really does, in my opinion.
Yeah. What I completely agree, and I think what I found while watching it is that the film itself, it works as a means of educating viewers on Tourette's, especially for someone like myself. As someone with autism, something I noticed while watching it is that seeing people struggle with public embarrassment that comes from involuntary tics or things that they have no part in controlling is something that I find difficult to watch, because I see that happening, and I think that as someone who with Asperger's syndrome, I have not. I look at that and I think that could be myself experiencing that, and that level of empathy is is what something that made it so. I found while watching, I swear it was something that, again, it, I became more accustomed to it and normalized and I throughout the course of watching it. There is a truly wonderful scene of John Davidson meeting with a girl in who also has Tourette's, and the two of them just sit together in a car and they just let themselves just tick it out, essentially. And that is, again, would I would honestly call that one of my favorite scenes of the entire year. And I think something that's also worth bringing up about it in that moment that scene also captures, it's also really really funny as a film, but never in the sense of laughing at people with Tourette's, but laughing at the things that people say because involuntarily because of Tourette's. This is a 15 rated film, like in the UK, with some, quite frankly, obscene dialogue and a lot of dropping of f bombs and the c word. And but but it's but we laugh at the fact that, yeah, there is the fact that this dialogue is also coming out of a incredibly thick Scottish accent as well. and like that just like adds to just the inherent absurdity of it. But yeah, this is I if I said that if Sorry Baby I think is the best film of this year, then I would call I swear I think is the most important film of this
Absolutely,
year,
yeah.
because there's that quote of how cinema is a machine to feel empathy towards other people, and I think that it encapsulates that quote, I think, better than any other film released this year.
I agree, yeah, and hopefully, we will see even better representation of neurodiversity in the future. But yeah, so that's all literally in the past now. That was 2025. I mean, all those films that we talked about belong in the last 12 years and 12 years, 12 months. And there's so much more we've got to look forward to in 2026. I mean, any films come to your mind?
Well, I think the big one that's on the horizon for the start of well, excluding like awards contenders, because quite a few we've both seen already, such as Rental Family, Hamnet, Is This Thing On, which we'll be talking about in future when it comes to the Oscars. But there's also in amongst those the first, there is 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which follows up again. That's a again in terms of films which came out of nowhere this year. Like that was like certainly one of them, which I think was like a really great follow up to the Danny Boyle, Alex Garland original, which was also very conscious of not doing the standard legacy sequel things and had its own vision of what this future like of the UK destroyed by the zombie apocalypse would be like in a world where nothing could be done to actually improve on things. So given what it sets up at the end, I'm very interested to see what Nia DaCosta, who is directing this middle chapter for this planned trilogy, has in store for this.
Yeah, no, it's I was really taken by 28 years later, and I've heard nothing but good things about Bone Temple as well. I mean, honestly, throughout the year, there's going to be a lot of author-driven movies that I think are going to capture more attention than I think people are possibly anticipating. Obviously, like I mentioned, you've got Christopher Nolan doing The Odyssey, you've got Steven Spielberg doing Disclosure Day, and then you've got Denis Villeneuve doing Dune Part 3 later in the year. You know, you've got so many excellent filmmakers bringing out new films this year. But you got like Alejandro Inarritu teaming with Tom Cruise for a
I was
film that we
just
now
going to
known as
mention that
Digger.
actually.
As
Yeah,
Digger, yeah.
yeah, because again, that is a director actor pairing that I don't think I would have ever expected to see. But no, that has very quickly become one of my most anticipated films of next year, and it's Tom Cruise going taking a more dramatic role. I think for the first time since probably American Made, which was like over 8 years ago now at this point.
Yeah, and yeah, I think this one will I'd be shocked if like this is not the one that finally lands Tom Cruise's first competitive Oscar because obviously he won was awarded the honorary Oscar this in 2025 for his all his contributions to film. But yeah, no, there's so much to look forward to. I mean, if you had to pick one film over the next 12 months that you just cannot wait, you need to see like right now here in January, which one do you think it would be?
Oh, well, I think out of everything coming up next year, which even in a year which includes new films by Steven Spielberg, Christopher Nolan, and Denis Villeneuve, honestly, it would be Digger. It would be Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. I'm just so intrigued by that actor director pairing, and yeah, I'm bring on October is all I can say.
Absolutely, and bring on December as well, because that's when we'll not only be getting Dune, apparently as of recording this, but also Avengers Doomsday, which they've started releasing a little teasers for, and it looks like it's going to be an epic one. I mean, I'm still with the Marvel stuff. I know a lot of people aren't, but I'm still entertained by it. So I'm definitely interested to see what they do with that, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it more throughout
Hmm.
the year as well. And but I think this has been a great new launching pad for the new film feeder format. So, how have you found your first episode, Joe?
Oh, I've had honestly the absolute best time being part of this, and I guess as Captain Lou, as Rick Blaine would say, sorry, nearly misattributed my quote for a moment, in Casablanca, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
I
like it.
really can't wait to do more episodes with you, Jack, throughout 2026 and hopefully far beyond that. But I guess before we wrap up, I guess I wanted to ask, shall we go through our personal top tens for 2025?
Sure, let's do it. Go for it.
Okay, so I have a few honorable mentions I wanted to give first, because this was again such a great year for film that it would feel wrong at least not mentioning these. Those being a few which made your own list. Those being Train Dreams and The Ballad of Wallace Island. But
Mm,
also, I really got a lot out of Bugonia, Yorgos Lanthimos' newest film, Zach Cregger's Weapons, as well as Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery. Now, I'll rattle through these as rather fairly quickly. Now, I have a tie for my number 10. Both of these are Stephen King adaptations, which again, I think had a really great year. Those being The Long Walk and Mike Flanagan's The Life of Chuck. Now, number 9 was I Swear. Now, these next three are the divisive three, were films that didn't quite live up to critical expectations, but I got a lot out of personally. Those being Materialists, Mickey 17, and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. These were just like some of my favorite theatrical experiences of the year. Now, number 5 was Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Again, my favorite film from London Film Festival, which I'll have more to say on as we go in further into award season. And then number 4, Sentimental Value. Number 3, Sorry Baby. Number 2, Sinners. And then number 1, One Battle After Another.
well, that's one hell of a list you've got there. As for my list, I'll just list a few runners up. So, there was Caught Stealing, which I found to be Darren Aronofsky's most fun film. It's just having a blast with it. Then was also Sentimental Value as a runner-up, which we mentioned, as is It Was Just an Accident, which won the Palme d'Or this year. Lollipop is also on there, which I thought was a wonderful independent British film by filmmaker Daisy May Hudson and features a great performance by Posey Sterling. So definitely check that out when you can. And also want to give a shout out to Black Bag, which is like Steven Soderbergh's spy caper, which I thought was just a blast. So my top 10 is actually there's fairly similar ones to you. So for example, number 10 was The Long Walk. I did put Life of Chuck. That was more like number 24 on the list. You can find all my entire top 30 on the Film Feeder website, by the way, at filmfeeder.co.uk. But number 10 is The Long Walk. Number 9, Frankenstein. Number 8, Ballad of Wallace Island. I'm just going to rattle through all these because I know you guys are patient to move on to other things. Number 7, Jay Kelly. Number 6, Sorry Baby. Number 5, Train Dreams. Number 4, I Swear. Number 3, Marty Supreme. Number 2, One Battle After Another. And then finally, number 1 was Sinners.
Yeah, so yeah, that's it really did surprise me just how similar like our taste actually are in terms of those top 10. But at the same time, just there have been like a few, there were like a few outliers. I think like the biggest discrepancy between our own personal list was Jay Kelly actually, with like sentimental value essentially taking its place for me. But again, we'll have plenty more to say about both of those and plenty of other big awards contender hopefuls as we go into this year and we start looking at the Oscar nominations.
Absolutely. This is what we'll be talking about next time when we'll be looking into what's finally been announced as being up for this year's Oscars. But that's a month from now. That'll be in February. But for now, this is the end of the January edition of Film Feeder, January 2026. Yeah, so once again, thank you so much, Joe, for joining me. I'm delighted that you're going to be my new co-host, and I'm looking forward to going into this new year with you. And well, I'm sure we're going to make it a great one.
Oh yes, I completely agree with you, Jack. And if you want to follow me further, I am on Blue Sky and Instagram at Warne Joseph. That's WARNEJOSEPPH.
And you can follow Film Feeder on all the handles and stuff. Will be in the little ident at the end. That's it for now. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let us know what your favorite films of 2025 were. Let us know in the comments wherever you may be watching or listening to this on, and let us know what you think of the show as a whole. Do you like our new format? What do you want to see from us next? What do you want to see us talk about as the year goes on? So do let us know. But for now, we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hey, you've made it to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for sticking around. Please like and subscribe on whichever platform you may be listening on. Make sure that you're following Film Feeder on all our social media channels, the links and handles to which are all listed in the episode description. And do consider supporting Film Feeder either on our Patreon or Ko-fi pages, the links to which are also in the description. Finally, don't forget to visit the Film Feeder website at filmfeeder.co.uk, where I post regular written reviews and weekly movie menus that round up all the latest movies coming to cinemas, streaming and on demand here in the UK. Until next time, I'm Jack Martin, your film chef extraordinaire, whetting your appetite for film each and every month. Bye for now.